Hey Threadheads, Darren here. Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be tying up this sweet little beadhead nymph, or I guess it could almost be a chironomid pattern. This one's called the Blue Assassin, and there's also some other variations. There's a purple assassin out there that's tied with a gold bead and purple. And you can see here I used two different threads for the underbody. The top one got blue and the other one just the white that we're going to be using in the tutorial. So the pattern was designed by Chris Scalley. He's a guide out of the Atlanta, Georgia area, and mainly they're using these flies to target some of the delayed harvest trout that they have stocked in there. And that season runs from November to about the middle of May. And basically, those are the times of year when the water is cool enough to support trout. The fly is normally fished using a hopper-dropper setup, with this being the dropper. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, and I'm going to get your name entered into the next draw that I've got for some of the flies I tie in the channel, some stickers, as well as some materials. Let's have a look at the material list and get started. Alright, let's get a fresh hook into the vise. We're going to be using a Firehole 315, and it's going to be a size 10. We're going to be using a 3.2 millimeter bead in silver on this one. You can use either tungsten or brass depending on how much weight. We'll get that fresh hook into the vise. Make sure it's secured in there nicely. So the first thing we're going to add is a little bit of flat wax nylon, FWN, in white, and this is going to provide our underbody for the fly. And if you remember in the intro, I showed you a fly that was done with blue underneath as well as a white. I'm going to take a piece of Z-Lon in white. If you don't have a white, a blue dun will work well for this. We'll just attach that just in behind the bead, and on top we'll trim that just to get it out of the way a little bit. We'll try to trim that. So with this white underbody, it's going to change the look of the fly. So if you have a darker underbody, it's going to show through a little bit darker. So the blue, you can see a bit of a blue tint on the finished fly, and with the white, kind of highlights the properties of the mirage. So we just tied that down on top of the hook shank. We want to keep in mind that we're going to try and keep the underbody as uniform as possible. Just trim the tail off. We're going to take a small length of gunmetal blue UTC wire. This is a small. And we're going to tie that in just behind the bead. You can actually stick it in under the bead sometimes if you have enough room. We're just going to tie this one along the side of the hook shank. And before we get that all the way to the back, we're going to grab our next material for our body. We're going to take some of the Mirage Flashaboo. We're going to take somewhere 3, maybe 4 strands of this. And this should be enough for 2 flies. So again, we're going to tie that in just behind the bead along the side. Just want to use a couple wraps just to secure it. You want to make touching turns more or less all the way down, and just keep those materials all together. And once we get to the tail, we'll wind back just behind the bead. We'll add a half hitch there. We're going to switch up our threads at this point. We're going to sub in a peacock blue instead of the white, and this is just to kind of reduce a little bit of the bulk at the head and kind of help camouflage our final thread wraps in our collar. So you want to make sure you tie that off by going behind that thread as well. We'll snip off the tag ends of the blue and the white UTC. Next, we're going to add a little bit of head cement just to these wraps. And nice thing about having that flat wax nylon, it's going to soak up a bit of that glue, and it's going to really help adhere the mirage to our fly. So this can be a little bit fragile, so if you get a few nicks it can come unwrapped. So that's one of the reasons I like to add the wire ribbing. Kind of makes it a bit more of a durable fly. And we're just going to wrap our flashabou, our mirage, up to just behind the bead. You want to try and make sure that you close any gaps. You want to have full coverage on that body. We'll get right behind the bead, and then we're going to secure those tag ends with our thread. Put a couple wraps over the back, fold it back, and make sure that it's really locked in there. And save the rest of that for your next fly. Next, we're going to wrap up with our gunmetal blue UTC. And we just want to make open spiral wraps just to give some nice ribbing to the fly. And this will also add a little bit of segmentation to the fly. So you just want to make sure you put wraps on both sides of the wire and make sure that it's locked in place there. And then we'll pull that up, give it a little bit of tension, and we'll give it a wiggle, and that should pop off after a few twists. Last material for this fly, we're going to add a collar or a thorax. We're going to be using some diamond dubbing here, but as I've said before, this is a little bit tricky to get nowadays, so if you want to go with some ice dub or something similar, any of those Angelina type dubbings, this should be good. Don't need a lot, just want a bit of a collar here just to kind of put in a nice blue hot spot, so to speak. And then we'll just grab our whip finish tool and we'll add double whip finish to the fly, and then we can trim off our excess thread. If you want, sometimes I'll add a little bit of head cement to that thread wrap just before we finish off. But there you go, there's the blue Assassin. You can also tie this up in a purple version with a gold bead. There you go. Hey fly tiers, thanks for stopping by and checking out my fly tying videos. If you enjoyed the video and want to show your support, hit the thumbs up and share it to your social networks. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, be sure to hit the bell icon to get notifications on my latest fly patterns, tips, and reviews. If you have a question or comment, leave a message below. You'll also be entered into the next draw for some of the flies I tie and a few stickers. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.